We are back. Another week, another flurry of information and things to figure out. Meredith, how are you over there? How's life?
I'm good.
How are loans?
They're exciting. I don't know if you can see Ryan, but we've got a little guest with us in the background. My dog's laying on the floor, so hopefully he cooperates.
Yeah.
Enjoys.
We're all sheltering in place here. It's probably the best days of your dog's life.
Yeah.
I have to say, Meredith was telling me earlier this week that she is, I think she's going delirious from filing all these. I think she's on her 15th disaster relief loan application or whatever it is. She's telling me that she wants to have bees. Is that right, Meredith?
Yeah.
And by the way, I think it's a wonderful hobby, but you have to know this thing about Meredith. She doesn't live in the country. She lives in the city. So I don't know how the neighbor will feel with the bee situation. I don't know where we at on this.
I just did some preliminary research on beekeeping because it's really great for the environment and we need it to help our planet. So I was like, well, this could be an interesting hobby, but yeah, I do live downtown Columbus, so it's not ideal.
We all need our hobbies. I do think maybe we continue to move down that list though of options. But anyways, I love it. So one quick housekeeping thing to talk about before we get into it. Many of you are aware of this because you're already in, but we've opened up a Slack channel for our clients so that we can provide real-time updates on things that are happening and we can interact and answer questions. So if you are not already in our client Slack channel for COVID updates, please reach out to your accountant or controller and we will get you added. Right, Meredith?
Yep. Let us know.
Okay. Okay, so we've spent a lot of this week talking to each of you about the various loan programs that are available to you with the SBA. You remember last week we mentioned that the disaster relief loan, which we originally thought would not apply to any of our clients, is now an option. So that puts both the disaster relief or the EIDL as well as the Paycheck Protection Program in play. And we've gotten a lot of questions about the two programs, and it's clear to me there's lots of confusion about what the two are, how they relate to each other, and so we put together a guide that I'm going to walk you through right now to help you think about how these two programs compare with one another. So first question is, when are these two available? Short answer is the disaster relief loan is available now, and if you apply for it now, that advance, the $10,000 advance, is available in 3 business days by ACH, and that is yours to keep regardless of whether or not you actually are eligible or you are granted the loan. The Paycheck Protection Program I've got as TBD. We know that banks are able to accept applications as soon as Friday, so we believe Friday is the date. But that doesn't guarantee every bank will be ready by Friday. We will. Okay, so next question is, how much can I get? So under the Paycheck Protection Program or the Payroll Protection Program, it's a specific calculation. It's 2.5 times your average monthly payroll from last year. The Economic Injury Loan is a little different. That's a loan that you'll actually apply for a particular amount, and your amount will be based on the economic injury that you have sustained as part of this crisis. And so we can help you determine what is the amount of injury, but things like lost revenue, reduced growth, those sorts of things would constitute economic injury. Cap on that loan is $2 million. The next question is there a piece of free money related to this? And the answer is, in both programs, yes. So under the Paycheck Protection Program, as you know, there's a loan forgiveness provision that allows you to get 8 weeks of qualified expenses forgiven as part of the loan, so you don't have to pay it back. The EIDL also has some free money, and that's the $10,000 advance. So once you apply within 3 business days, you get a $10,000 advance, again, regardless of whether or not you are ultimately granted the loan. The next question is, what can they be used for? Now, these two are very similar, but there are key differences. So on the Paycheck Protection Program, it can be used for qualified payroll, rent and utilities, and interest on existing debt. It cannot be used for principal on existing debt. So you can't pay down the principal of debt. The economic injury loan, you can. So for that, it's the same stuff, payroll, operating expenses, those sorts of things, but also existing accounts payable and also the principal obligations. Now, you can't refinance the debt, but you can pay your monthly principal obligations on existing debt with the emergency injury disaster loan. Key difference. Who can lend these two things? So, again, we've been working with each of you on the EIDL to apply this week direct through the SBA. The Paycheck Protection Program is different. That you'll apply through a traditional lender, either your bank or some other SBA lender. The next question is who applies or who is eligible, that is. They're both similar in that you had to have been in business as of a particular date and you have to have less than 500 employees. However, additional requirements for the EIDL are that A, you have to have sustained actual economic injury, and B, there is some repayment assessment. So the Paycheck Protection Program, there is no repayment assessment that we're aware of. The EIDL, there is. So that might be a credit report under a certain amount of money. It may be financial statements determined by the SBA loan officer. Next question is there a payment deferral, and what is that duration? On the Paycheck Protection Program, it is min 6 months, max 12 months per the bill. What we're hearing from the SBA is they're just doing a 6 month across the board. For the EIDL, a little bit longer, you get 12 months to pay back. Next question is there any payment guarantees or personal guarantees, that is? So for the Paycheck Protection Program, there are no personal guarantees. For the EIDL, there is a personal guarantee if the loan amount is in excess of $200,000. So the amount in excess of $200,000 would have to be personally guaranteed. And final question is, do you have to pledge collateral? For the Paycheck Protection Program, the answer is no. For the EIDL, the answer is yes, over $25,000, it has to be collateralized. As I mentioned, we have this helpful guide. We've put it up on our website, upsourcedaccounting.com. You'll see a little header bar with COVID-19 resources, and you can download your copy today.
So, okay, one issue that we're dealing with is, or one question that we're getting is, can I apply for both of these loans? So the payroll protection loan and the
EIDL.
Thank you.
Yes.
Too many acronyms going on.
I tell you what.
So there's a ton of conflicting information about this. You can get online and you can see one article saying, yes, you can apply. You can go and see one that says, no, you can't. So here's what we know. We've spoken with the SBA office. We've looked at several peer firms, like what they're saying, what they're putting out. Our attorneys, the consensus is, yes, you can apply for both of them. You may ultimately be able to take funding from both of them or not, super unclear. But the purpose is what's really going to be important here. Like, you can't use them for the same purpose. So the payroll protection loan is for payroll costs, the 8-week period, once you get the loan through the end of June. The EIDL loan is you're going to have to establish a different purpose that you want to use that for.
That's right.
Okay.
And there's I think you've hit the primary piece. Like, there's a lot of overlap in what you can and can't use them for, but the only way that we would be able to theoretically get this loan for both loans for the same client would be if we were to establish a separate purpose. And again, to your point, we don't yet know that that's possible, but that would be the only way it is possible. We're going to learn more over the coming days.
Yeah. And this is changing literally every day. There's new guidance, so.
But we are recommending that where our clients apply for both, right?
Correct. Yep. So we've already started the process. We can apply for the EIDL right now. So if we haven't already done that for you, let us know. We'll help you through it. I know most of my clients have already been processed or are in process right now. And then tomorrow is going to be the earliest date to apply for the payroll protection loan. And that's going to have to be through your financial institution. So again, if you guys have not reached out to a current lender, reach out, get the ball rolling, because they're going to be key to applying for that loan.
And if you don't have a lender, let us know. We do have folks that we can connect you with. But yeah, so as Meredith said, we don't have a lot of clarity on whether you will actually be able to take both loans, but what we're recommending is that we have our clients apply for both loans. Best case, we can establish dual purposes and take both sets of money. Worst case, we have a decision to make several days or weeks down the road with regard to which of the two loans would be most advantageous in that situation.
Ryan, one question that we are getting is related to contractors, and it's, can I use the payroll protection loan to pay my contractors, even if that contractor is like more like an employee and less like a vendor?
Yeah, that's a great question, by the way. So, just as a little bit of background before I answer that question, again, we'll say this a couple of times. The reality is the bill created a very broad framework for a loan program out of the PPP. They then kicked the responsibility of the SBA to actually fill out the program, which they did over the last couple of days. Needless to say, there are holes everywhere. And for everything that a person believes to be true, there is a blog post with somebody else who believes that not to be true. It's just rampant speculation at this point. And so the last thing we're going to do is tell you a thing that we know to be true when we don't. Because ultimately, very few people know many things to be true with 100% certainty. But what I will tell you is there really is nothing in the guidelines that was put out by the Treasury to suggest that those independent contractors would be eligible. In other words, we don't believe that they will be eligible. It appears to be pretty specifically related to employees, both full and part-time, with minor exceptions, and the wages paid to both. Independent contractors are eligible to apply for this funding on their own behalf, which is in part why we believe that you wouldn't therefore also be able to claim them as part of your loan as well. So I don't know, obviously we'll track that, Meredith. But right now we don't think those would be eligible.
Okay, got it. Agreed. Cool. So we have a bunch of other questions. And some people have sent in questions on our fun new little app.
Yeah, new segment. Let's try that. Yeah, let's try that out. We got some video questions. So let's see it. First one is from Jake.
What if I already applied for the disaster loan before the $10,000 advance was announced? What can I do to make sure I get that?
So we've got a lot of clients in the same situation. Answer is pretty simple. If you filled out the larger loan application for the disaster loan prior to the advanced simple application, which happened at the end of last week, so end of March, if you applied for it before then, you should reapply now. The SBA has been clear that it doesn't jeopardize your reapplication and cause you to lose your place. This is just how they're getting your banking information to give you the $10,000.
Yep, straightforward. I don't have anything to add there. That's perfect. All right, let's try another. We've got one from Seth.
All right, I got a question for you, Ryan. I'm a venture-backed startup and just curious how that affects our qualifications for the SBA loans. I've been seeing a lot of info flying around about it may or may not trigger a qualification, so just curious if you can add some clarity on that front. Thanks.
Okay, I can take this one. Pretty nuanced, and so what Seth is referring to, and he's got a venture-backed company, so it's more applicable for businesses like that. But for anybody who has outside ownership, there are these rules from the SBA around affiliation. So without going all the way into the weeds, what you need to know is if you've got business A who has a majority owner, and that majority owner is also a majority owner in business B, by the definition of the SBA, those two businesses are affiliates. The reason that's relevant is that is when determining whether those two businesses meet the definition of a, quote, small business or under 500 employees. And so when you've got two affiliated businesses, in determining whether they meet the qualifications, you got to add their headcount together. So if taken together, the affiliates exceed the 500 employee limit, then they are not eligible for the loan. And so in the case of a VC, you've got outside investors who have investment in other startups, and therefore there's this risk that they should all be treated as affiliates. I'd say the couple quick things to know: if you've got an outside investor who owns more than 50% of your business, then they would be a majority owner, and anything that they also have majority ownership would count. So over 50% is sort of a no-brainer. Under 50%, which is a lot of VC-backed companies, there is still the risk. There is this idea of negative control. So if in the equity agreement they have the ability to do certain things like veto specific decisions, then they might have negative control, and therefore you'd still have to evaluate the affiliate. So all I would tell you there is if you find yourself in that boat, just check with your attorney. Particularly in the case of negative control, there are still things you can do like amend your equity agreements in order for you to qualify. So all that to say, check with your attorney if you find yourself in that situation and make sure you feel like you're eligible before you actually hit apply on the application.
Sounds good. Certainly not in my wheelhouse, so let's go to the next one.
All right, we got last question, Tony.
Employees who are taking advantage of the emergency paid leave and expanded FMLA, how will those costs be treated for my Paycheck Protection loan?
Okay, got it. This one we've gotten once or twice. It's pretty straightforward. The loan forgiveness is going to be based off of cost incurred and paid during the 8-week period after you've received the loan. And those costs include payroll, rent, utilities, interest on existing debt. If you received credit for the wages during the paid emergency leave, this would not be forgiven.
Right. So no double dipping is the bottom line. You can't get money for the paid leave and then also get it back through forgiveness in the Paycheck Protection Program. That makes sense.
One other question that I've been receiving that kind of goes along with this is what about partners that are currently on payroll that they want to conserve cash flows? Should they take themselves off of payroll, or is it more beneficial for them to stay on and get that forgiven?
This is a phenomenal question, and this is a total blind spot, just candidly, which is the idea of partners in a partnership. So if you are a sole proprietor, then you get to count, quote, as payroll your self-employment income. So basically the net income of your business, regardless of whether or not you're paying yourself a paycheck. Because in the case of a sole proprietor, you can't pay yourself a paycheck. What they haven't addressed is the idea of, an S corp, for instance, where you have self-employment income as an owner, and you may also have wages. Can you only count the wages, or can you also count the self-employment income? It feels counter to the spirit of the agreement if you would not also be able to count the self-employment income, in which case, to answer your question, it wouldn't really matter. But that's not yet how it reads. So what I would tell you is this question is particularly relevant around forgiveness. So, do you need to put yourself back on the payroll in this case in order to get loan forgiveness? Short answer is we don't yet know. But the loan forgiveness period begins once the loan is originated. And so we've got a little time, and I suspect there will be additional clarifications for us to answer that question. And then if you find yourself in that situation, we'll make sure we advise you whichever direction prior to your actual loan getting funded. So that's a wonderful question, but the short answer is we don't have an answer to that yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Here's what we think.
Yeah, I got more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's hit this week's survey questions really quickly. Thank you again for everybody who submitted answers. Again, we find this a really helpful segment. This week's a little more straightforward, so I'll rifle through these. First question was, do you find or do you believe that you have enough cash or credit in order to withstand the next 90 days? So I'd say this is a mostly good news situation. 2/3 of our clients said yes, sort of unequivocally yes. The remaining 1/3 of our clients were sort of split half and half between maybe and no. So obviously that's a situation we'll continue to monitor, but hopefully with these 2 loan programs, we should be able to get everybody, or we hope to be able to get everybody some funding that should chip away at those no's and maybes. Next question was, have you had any success deferring loan payments? The overwhelming majority of our clients haven't tried or don't have outstanding debt for which this is relevant. We've got 10% of clients who have had success. So, hey, we'll take it. The next question kind of related was, have you had any success extending your credit or getting additional credit? So again, about 2/3 of our clients are NA, haven't tried. And then about a quarter are in process. So Upsource Accounting, by the way, is within that quarter. We're also in process. and then remaining have not had success. So I would say if you find yourself in that bucket where you're not having success, you've been denied, let us know. We're happy to introduce you to other lenders. I can tell you people are still, even outside of these SBA programs, they are still putting capital into the market. And if you've got the financials to support it, then there's definitely money out there for you. So then the last question was, are you planning on participating or taking advantage of either of these SBA loan programs? Nearly all of our clients are planning on applying for both. Small percentage just EDIL, small percentage just Paycheck Protection Program. But again, we're recommending outside of sort of specific edge cases that at a minimum you apply for both. And as we've said before, what we believe to be true is worst case scenario. We just have a choice to make at some point. So thanks again. We'll keep an eye out for next week's survey. And thank you again for answering. All right, Meredith, this week's fun segment, what you got for us?
All right, how to stay connected to your team during quarantine. We'll share a few ideas that we're doing here at Upsourced. The first is each week we're getting together and we're doing a virtual happy hour. Every Thursday we meet for about an hour. Typically goes longer because we're having a good time. We talk about what shows we're watching, what projects we're doing around our house, what our kids are into, and have a drink and just chat and kind of relax. And it's a great time. We're gonna try this week virtual trivia. So Sean, one of the controllers here at Upsource, does trivia in the community. And so he's putting together an Upsourced edition of trivia. So we're gonna give that a try. And then finally, a super fun activity that you can play online that's called Jackbox, and it's a virtual trivia party game, I think is how they describe it. So essentially what you do is you get a meeting code. You can play from anywhere from like 2 to 8 people, and you enter the meeting code into your web browser, and you answer all these questions and you guess who said what, and it's super fun. It sounds a little cheesy, but it's fun. Check it out. They make a Zoom edition that integrates with Zoom, so it could be a fun way. Let us know what you guys are doing. We want to hear how you guys are staying connected to your team, and I know a lot of you guys are always virtually connected, so what do you do on a regular basis to get that human connection? Let us know.
All right, Meredith, that was awesome. Hopefully some folks got some use or minimum entertainment out of that. So thank you for watching again this week. Again, submit your questions. Again, let us know if you have feedback. And without question, we will be talking to you on probably a daily basis as we move through this loan program. So until next week.